Have you ever stopped to think about how a massive, complex software system actually gets built from the ground up? It's a lot like building a house. You can't just show up with a pile of bricks and hope for the best. No way. You need a master plan, a detailed blueprint that guides every single decision, from pouring the foundation to that final coat of paint. Which, of course, leads to a pretty big question. Right. How do you take a simple idea, maybe for a new app or a huge piece of software for your company, and turn it into a real, working, reliable system that people can actually depend on every day? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. The secret, if you can call it that, is a structured methodology. Honestly, just think of it as the master recipe. It's the framework that makes sure nothing gets missed, and it's what turns a fuzzy idea into a solid, functional reality by breaking the whole massive job down into 4 key phases. So, here's our roadmap for this journey. First, we'll dig into analysis. Then we'll move on to design. After that comes the actual build, which is implementation. And finally, we'll talk about the ongoing process of maintenance. These are the 4 essential pillars that hold up any successful information system project. Okay, let's dive in. Phase 1, analysis. This is all about laying that rock-solid foundation. Seriously, before a single line of code gets written, before any hardware is even thought about, we have to understand exactly what we're building and, just as importantly, what. And that foundation rests on 3 absolutely crucial activities: gathering requirements, analyzing the way things are already done, and modeling the data. And let me tell you, if you get these wrong, the most brilliant code in the world isn't going to save your project.
So, requirements gathering, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's all about figuring out what the system absolutely has to do. Back to our house analogy, this is where you interview every single person who's going to live there. For a project management system, that means sitting down with managers and their teams to learn exactly what they need. Skipping this step is probably the #1 reason projects fail. You end up building a beautiful system that solves the completely wrong problem.
Next up, we have to analyze the existing processes. This is like surveying the land before you start digging. You have to understand the terrain, right? For an e-commerce site, this means mapping out every single step of how an order goes from a customer's click to a package on their doorstep, always looking for those bottlenecks. The real danger here is automating a process that's already broken. If you don't fix the problems first, all you're doing is the wrong thing, but way faster. And a last part of laying our foundation is data modeling. This is where we start sketching out the system's internal structure. Using tools like an entity relation diagram, we figure out how all the different pieces of information, customers, products, orders, you name it, all connect to each other. It's basically the very first floor plan, showing how all the different rooms are going to be linked together. So, with our analysis done and our foundation solid, we can finally move on to phase 2, design. We figured out what we need to build, and now it's time to figure out how we're going to build it. This is where we create the really detailed technical blueprints for the whole system. Now, this design phase really boils down to 3 main components. We've got the architectural design for the big picture structure, the user interface design for how people will actually use it, and the database design for how all that information gets stored and organized.
Architectural design. This is a huge decision point. Think of it this way. Are we building a custom single-family home on our own land? That's kind of like a client-server system. Or are we building a condo in a huge managed apartment building, which is more like a cloud-based architecture? Each approach has massive implications for cost, for how easily you can scale up, and for how much control you have.
Of course, a core principle here is making sure the system is user-friendly. That's the entire goal of user interface design, or UI. It's about making the system not just easy to use, but maybe even enjoyable. For a fitness app, that means big, clear buttons and navigation that just makes sense. A fantastic UI can make a good system feel totally essential, but a bad one? A bad one can make even the most powerful software completely useless. It's the interior design that makes the house a place you actually want to live in. And then we have database design. This is where we get specific about what data goes where. We organize everything into neat tables for things like products, orders, and customers. This is just like planning out the plumbing and all the storage systems in the house, making sure every single piece of data has a logical place to live and connects properly to everything else. All right, our blueprints are approved, they're signed off. It is go time. We are now in phase 3, implementation. This is the construction phase. It's time to take all those plans, all those diagrams, and finally turn them into a real working system. The hard hats are on.
This whole phase really breaks down into two main jobs. There's the software development itself, that's the actual building, and then there's the infrastructure configuration, which is like getting all the utilities hooked up and running.
Software development is where the real magic starts to happen. The programmers, our construction crew, they take all those design documents and they start writing the code. They're using various programming languages to build out all the features and the logic that makes the system work, just like laying the bricks and putting up the frame of our house. But all that amazing code can't just run in a vacuum. It needs a place to live. That's where infrastructure configuration comes in. This is all about setting up the servers, the databases, the networks, everything needed to support the application. It's literally the same as connecting our brand new house to the electrical grid, the water main, and the internet. So the system is built, it's up and running, we're done, right? Move-in day? Nope, not even close. We now enter the fourth, and by far the longest phase, maintenance. You see, a system is like a living thing. It needs constant care to make sure it lasts. And maintenance isn't just one thing. It's a whole collection of ongoing jobs. You've got to manage updates and security patches. You need to provide support to the people using it. You have to monitor performance to catch little problems before they become big ones. And you have to plan for how the system will evolve in the future. So you see, it's a continuous cycle, not a one-and-done fix. It's just like owning a house, right? You have to fix a leaky faucet, repaint a wall, maybe you even add a new room down the line. An information system needs that same constant attention to stay secure, effective, and relevant. If you neglect it, that's how systems get slow, become vulnerable, and eventually just become obsolete. So when you add it all up across all four of those phases, let's see, we had 3 in analysis, 3 in design, 2 in implementation, and 4 in maintenance. That gives us a grand total of 12 distinct components. And here's the real takeaway. These 12 components, they're not just some boring checklist. They are the essential steps, the guiding philosophy for the entire process. Following this kind of methodology is what makes the difference between a system that's just built correctly and a system that's built to last, one that can adapt and evolve as the world changes around it. Which brings me to a final thought for you to chew on. When you think about it, that last phase, maintenance, is all about continuous evolution and adapting to new challenges and new technologies. So, is an information system ever really finished? Or is it always in a constant state of becoming something new? Something to think about.